You guys asked for it and it's finally here.
Walking downtown and I'm okay.
Hi guys, Han here, and today is finally the day. You guys have asked for a video about my shelves and my house and everything for so long, and it's finally happening. In today's video, I'm actually going to start by showing you how I organise this, because we're going to be reorganising the entire thing together. So I'm going to be giving you tips on how you can organise your own collections, as well as answering some of the questions you guys have had about, like, how do I organise it, how do I clean it, what's inside it, etc, etc. Not only that, this will also be the first installment of a video series where I show you different parts of my house, how they're organised, what merch is inside them, and so on and so forth. Basically a house tour, but Army and Mower edition. So without further ado, let's begin. Okay, so the first step is obviously cleaning. Right now you can see that I'm taking everything out of the shelf and dusting as I go along, because in all honesty it's been a hot minute since I last cleaned any of this. When I first moved into this apartment, I told myself I would clean this every month, but let's be real, that didn't happen. That being said, you guys really should clean your merch at least once every 2 months, just because if you let dust build up on it, it can actually damage your merch because it can stick and it can discolor your merch as well. So better safe than sorry. Normally how I would clean mine is I take out a full shelf, clean everything, and then put it back and move on to the next shelf. In terms of the actual organization though, what I'm doing is that as I'm taking things out, I'm actually organizing everything by color. However you choose to organise your merch, it should be in line with how you plan to display it. So if you plan to have like CDs together, DVDs together, then you should organise it that way. Whereas some people like to do this chronologically, and for me, I like to do mine by colour. Okay, so I've just about finished actually emptying out the shelves, and my goodness, I'm sweating. That actually took way longer than I expected it to, and was way more strenuous than I expected it to be, but it's all done. So let me show you what we're working with right now. So starting with the immediate floor in front of me, these are like all the small things that were on the shelves, just random small items and things like that. These are all the empty boxes, which I will show you what we do with those later. And I've got some like tiny tan stuff, some like freebies that are all slotted away. All this stuff over here is like my old merch. These are some butter albums that are available for purchase if you're wondering. And over here in the living room, we have everything else, which is kind of color coded to some degree, which is going to be important later. And then over here on these two chairs, you can see I've actually got all my PC binders, which is a lot more than I anticipated actually having. So I'm kind of not sure how I want to organize these now, because how I was planning to do them, I don't think it's going to look nice. Speaking of looks, my next tip is that you guys should actually plan what you want your shelves to look like when they're finished. This goes hand in hand with my last tip about organising your merch in line with how you want to display it. I knew I wanted mine to be colour coded, but I also knew I specifically wanted the top 3 rows to be a rainbow gradient, but I also wanted the bottom 3 to be monochromatic. What you can see me doing now is actually my next tip, which is place the larger pieces first. Not only do they give you a good general picture of what your finished shelves will look like, but it also lets you move things around much easier than if you had lots of small items already in the shelves. So you might see I'm actually moving things around between shelves, even if they're still in the same general vicinity, just until I get the gradient that I want. Okay, so right now, the main colour layout is done. Actually loving how it looks right now. So far I've only placed the big items and I've just kind of thrown them in the shelves just to get a feel of the colours. Now we'll go into the actual arranging and start adding in all these small items just to fill out the shelves and make them look really nice. So now we're finally in the home stretch. I'm going to show you guys close-ups of some of the shelves as I organise them, just so I can talk you through some of my tips for organising your own shelves. However, I will give you a full close-up of the whole thing in my next video, where I actually talk to you more about what merch I actually have in the shelves, for those of you who are interested, because a lot of you guys have asked. Anyway, so my first tip when it comes to actual organising is to create levels. In your shelves, you want the big tall things at the back and the small short things at the front. If you organise things that way, you can fit more on your shelves and create more of a staggered look, which creates more visual interest. So that's why my shelves look so full, even though realistically, if I was to line everything up straight, there's not actually that much on them. This is also a great tip for if you don't have a big collection yet, but you don't want your shelves to look super empty. My next tip is something that I think a lot of people won't think of. Do you guys remember all those empty boxes I showed you at the beginning? Well, we're going to use those to help us create our levels. Sometimes you want something to go at the back, even though it's not actually a tall item, and the way I get around this is by using an empty box to prop it up, and then I just put something else smaller in front of it so you can't see the box. That's how I make the most of each shelf, because for me personally, I don't actually like being able to see the wood at the back of my shelves. I think it's wasted space. So I like using this method so that I can see all the merch in my shelves, and I know I've used all the space from back to front. My last tip is to remember that space is your friend. It's actually okay not to fill every inch of space you have on every shelf that you have, because guess what? Merch comes out every week and you're always gonna get something new and it needs somewhere to go. That was my biggest problem with my last layout, is that I had made everything as jam-packed as I possibly could. And this time around, I really tried to pull back, and I really said to myself, does this need to go in this shelf? I actually have another shelf in part of my house that you guys haven't seen. So I really tried to limit myself to how much I put in here. So I left a lot of open spaces and filled out the shelf by spreading things out more, so that when I get new items, they actually have somewhere to go that doesn't require me to reorganize the entire shelf. A prime example of this are my photo card binders, which you might notice aren't in the shelf. That's because they're elsewhere. As there are a few items that I took out before I actually even started organizing, because I knew I wouldn't have space for them. Ironically, my shelves look fuller even though there's less items in them. It may not look it, but it's all a trick of the eye. It's finished! Oh, thank you, Jesus. Guys, this took so long, but I really hope you guys enjoyed the video and that you got some insight into the process that went into this new wall that you'll be seeing. This is just the first installment of a series of videos I'll be doing, where I'll be showing you around different rooms in my house. So if you'd like to see that, remember to subscribe and like this video if you like this video, because it took me forever. Anyway, that is all for today's video. Thank you so much for spending today with me. This has been Han from the Haniverse. Thanks for stopping by.